Okay, so guys, I've just started the recording again. This is now we're going to talk about exam technique and how to approach exams and how to approach questions, how to approach your revision, how to structure your revision. So interestingly, I wrote a book on this a year and a half ago. So I'm going to try and see if I can find it. Oh, great idea to write a book. I wrote a book on exam technique stuff. Let me see if I can find it. I also wrote a book on the UCAT. The pandemic was all really boring for me. There we go. Where do I study medicine? I study medicine at Glasgow, so up in Scotland. Yeah, it's good fun, good city, good. I like the course structure. Let me see if I can find. Sorry, it's taking a second to load up. Oh, okay. No, that's not, shouldn't be in desktop. It should be in this PC. Sorry, my computer's a bit slow. If there's any other questions in the meantime, please let me know. What year am I in? I'm in second year now. Yeah. Cool. So if I'm just going to show you sort of an example of how I work with Anki. So I have created every kind of all my key blocks have been separated. So I've got like year 2, we're doing endocrinology right now. And that's separated into the individual weeks. So week 1, 2, 3, 4. And I create this heat sync map. And this heat sync map, it helps me a lot with motivation. Basically, it means that even on days where I'm really tired and I can't be bothered to do anything, for the sake of habit, I will always do at least 1 flashcard. So I did 3 on this day. Now, I don't recommend doing that because that creates a huge backlog. And as you can see, there have been days where I've had to cover 400 and 500 flashcards in a day, which isn't fun. It takes about 3 hours to do. But even if, basically my principle is that even if I am really, really tired, I will always do at least a flashcard because that is vital for me. Yeah, what else did, so what else is really cool about Anki? Yeah, so let me show you one of the main types of flashcards I work with. This is the T6 ATP. So it's like this. So this is the sign guidelines for the treatment of type 2 diabetes. Basically, I have now just covered up this specific drug name. So now I'm like, okay, so which drug has high efficacy, specific cardiovascular benefits, low hypoglycemic risk. So I know that's going to be an SGLT2 inhibitor. And then I can just, oh no, GLP-1 agonist. So I press again and I'll come back to it in like 5 minutes. So basically the principle is that I can do that with diagrams, which is something that Quizlet doesn't really have. And it's a lot better than doing a thing. How did I get the streak thing on Anki? What I did was I went into tools, add-ons, and it was called the, it's one of the famous streaks. It's called heat map. And there's a page. If you just go into heat map, what you can do is you can press get add-ons, enter a code, and it will just log it for you. Yeah. I think the code for heat map, if anyone is interested in using that, I think Andrea, if you want it, that's your code. If you just put that into Anki, you'll be fine. Then it'll just download it automatically for you. And it's great because it means it tells me exactly what I'm doing. Let me see if I can find. still trying to find the book because there's loads of other resources that I compiled in that book. It was quite a good document. Probably in here, in the drive that we created for the company. So this. That's different. Sorry, I'll get to the questions in a second. Oh, there we go. Finally found it. It's the revision book. Okay. I'll skip the first couple of bits. So basically, I'm just going to talk through kind of exactly what there is. So okay, that's about crafting a revision space, which I will talk about later, and how to set yourself revision goals. So revision timetables. Do I have a method for memorizing long processes in biology? Yeah, draw them out. So if I'm trying to memorize kind of an incredibly long pathway for anything, I'll just draw it out. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we're doing glycolysis. I don't know if you guys have done that. Just go glucose. This is horrible because I can't type on this. Glucose. But normally I have a whiteboard that I can do this in, and then I'll just be like glucose 6-phosphate, G1P, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, etc., etc. Problem solving tips. Yeah, so for the problem solving section of your biology papers, the best thing you can do is get ready for them, in the sense that what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to form links between everything that you've learned. And this is something you'll find that gets easier as year 13 goes on for you, because it's something that once you realize that everything in biology tends to be quite linked, you'll realize that everything is quite interconnected, and it's quite cool. And what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to form those links. And so the best way to revise that is to make a diagram. Can we have a link to this book you made? Yeah, I will send it over to the group chat for you after the lesson. Actually, I'll just share it here now. Give me a sec, just so you can see it. Anyone with the... Yeah, it's the WhatsApp group. But I'm just going to send it here so that you guys can see it. I'll also put it on the WhatsApp group afterwards. So back to problem solving tips. One of the coolest things that you could do is, unfortunately it hasn't been edited. This is the unedited copy of it. I did go through a proper editing process, but it didn't manage to. This is the one with all the grammatical issues in them. But yeah. Back to problem solving tips. One of the things I used to make these really, really cool diagrams, and I would literally just draw out kind of a topic, and I would connect it to every other topic by something. So let's say I was talking about transport in animals, and I was talking about hemoglobin. I could immediately link hemoglobin to, I could link it to sort of proteins, obviously, quite logically, it's protein structure. I could link it to, animal. Obviously, I'm talking about it through kind of, I could link it to muscles. I could link it through to, I think she means I could link it to the Borscht. I could link hemoglobin to vagus nerve, accelerans nerve. I could link it to nervous control. I could link it to hormonal. I could link it to adrenaline and fight or flight. I could link it to, I could link it to digestion if I wanted to, really. I could basically link it to almost everything. I link it to really easily to exchange surfaces and oxygen sort of transport. The principle to it is you just want to be able to take any topic and be able to link it to everything else. And that's the way that AO2 questions come up in biology exams. They tend to come up with a problem that you wouldn't think is linked to something else. And then you realize that everything is really quite interconnected. So remember that a couple of things about revision timetables, just because I would recommend having one. It does help you kind of make your revision very clear. I mean, I still do revision timetables and I'm, 8 to, years and years later down the line. I make sure that every goal that I do is smart and it's very specific. So this revision timetable that I created years ago probably isn't actually the best revision timetable I could have created, but this is basically what I did through my A-level years. I was doing about 3 hours a night kind of thing. And then 3 exams per day on the weekend. But yeah, I would recommend that your revision timetable should be very, very specific. When you say chemistry, what does that mean? You know what I mean? This is a poor revision timetable for that reason. I would say make that more specific and say chemistry paper 1 revision, chemistry organic synthesis mind map, chemistry, what specifically are you doing? Another thing that I would recommend you guys to use, and I discovered this in my A-level year, it's a program called Momentum. It's basically a Chrome extension, and it's the one I use. As I'm hoping you guys can all see my screen. It tells you simple things like times. It allows you to set a main focus. It gives you a nice motivational quote and a beautiful background. But what it's got an amazing to-do list section. And this is basically what I do is I set at the beginning of the day, I set a to-do list out. Oh, sorry. Give me a sec. Just change. Are you sure? For me, it's telling me that it should have moved over to the Momentum app, but I don't know if it has for you guys. No, can you not see it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so some people have said that we can, some people have said that you can't, but okay. I think maybe your computer might be a little bit, yeah, cool. Anyway, so you just set yourself a to-do list, telling yourself exactly what you want to do. So for example, I need to do all of this today, make a poster for type 2 diabetes, consolidate a bunch of processes, make some more flashcards and do a quiz. And I know that that's my goals. And once I've set goals, I make them happen. Now, Andrea's asking, what if you don't have that much time because of other extracurricular activities? And I know probably as a medical applicant, you probably do have a lot of other things going on. That's why you've got to make sure that your goals are realistic. Also, making sure that you're maximizing your, it's called momentum. So let me show you. It's brilliant. So if you just go into the Chrome web store, you can do that also to other kind of on the other websites. Or I use Microsoft Edge, but basically it's a productivity extension. It's really good. Yeah. I mean, I might go and get Momentum Pro actually. Do I think Notion is useful for biology? I didn't use Notion until this year. I was always a paper notes kind of guy for A-levels because there wasn't that much. And then I switched over to, as you can see, I switched over to Evernote first last year. I got a free year of student premium, and now I've switched over to Notion. I like Notion. Notion is good. I was shocked that they only managed to get tables this year. I was kind of disappointed that it took them that long to put tables into things. But yeah, Notion is brilliant. I think it's great for everything. Again, to continue with the what if you don't have that much time because of extracurricular activities? Make your goals manageable. Make sure that you're able to utilize any time that you have. So things like you can do flashcards on the train, or you can do, flashcards in the car. I mean, I've done flashcards while walking between places if I've got a really busy day. If you're wanting to, this isn't like toxic productivity kind of stuff. It's more if you're really wanting to get something done, make sure that you've found a way that you can get it done, even if you're not kind of able to do it on one device. So I know a lot of people who use kind of certain apps that mean that they can't do it across devices. Make sure everything is just synced up in advance, and then you can do kind of anything on the go as well. Listen to like podcasts. There are a bunch of good A-level revision podcasts, or watching a video in the background while you're doing something else. That's, you're getting two birds, one stone there. So those kind of things would be very, very useful in terms of helping you to revise. Yeah. Do I have any advice on the AQA biology essay? I didn't do AQA, but I have taught AQA biology before. And the biggest advice is that thing about the linking, because AQA biology essays, the most marks get talking about things that link between each other. So they often give you quite a broad topic. So they give you nitrogen's uses in biological systems, which is a hugely broad topic. So start kind of prepping yourself in advance with, okay, where can I link all of these topics together and everything that I've learned? Yeah, I don't know if you guys are fans of the Pomodoro technique, but that's another cool thing that you can do. You can do that on here as well. You can do a Pomodoro timer, which basically means, so this is on Pure, but plus, but you can do that even on sort of specific phone apps. But that basically is 25 and 5 technique. So 25 minutes revision, 5-minute break. That's also a really cool kind of revision tip and technique. And then if you're going to do the Pomodoro technique, I would switch topics to avoid monotony, so that you're not doing the same things. Oh, yeah, this is another cool thing that I used to do, like summary diagrams. Those are great. So I did that on like my tablet, which I got kind of in medicine, but yeah. Yeah, I talk about momentum a lot. It's great. It's basically the main thing I use. You know, I know all of you guys, you might know active recall as the main technique for revision. It's a pretty efficient revision technique. You're doing double the amount of work in half the amount of time. Also, one huge tip for you guys, make sure when you're finishing an exam paper, read the examiner's report. A lot of people don't tend to do that, and I don't understand why, because the examiner's report literally tells you what people who did that paper in that year got wrong, or how they made mistakes. And surely that would be one of the most important things that you can learn, because what are the common pitfalls? So make sure you read the examiner's report after any paper you do. What laptop do I recommend for stuff like this? I don't have a particularly good laptop. I bought a sort of a kind of a low range HP laptop at the start of my A levels, and that was the one I still use to now. I don't think a lot of these apps are going to be very intensive. They're not going to try and like, you know, they're not like taking up all your storage or taking up all your capacity. So it shouldn't be that much of a problem, you know. But yeah, if I know friends who use like MacBooks and other laptops as well, and it also functions. Personally, with any of these apps, they tend to work slightly better on Android and Windows devices because they're free on them, whereas they're paid for in a lot of the Apple and iOS devices. What's the Chrome add-on called again? Momentum. Momentum's amazing. Okay, yeah, mind maps and flashcards are great ways to do active recall as well. Again, also spaced repetition. So that's done through Anki for me. But another way you can do this, especially if you make physical copies of anything, is use the box technique. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. Basically, you get 5 boxes. And you put your flashcards in the first box, and then if you know you've got the right answer, you move them to the second box, and every box is an incremental increase in the amount of time. So every box is 1 day, 2 days, twice a week, once a week, once a month is the 5 kind of incremental boxes. could I email? Unfortunately I can't email. I'm not allowed to take your guys' email. I've sent the link in the chat to it though, so it's up there in the Zoom chat, and I'll be putting it on the document as well. Memory techniques. So another really cool thing is what you can do. Gathering information together. So yeah, this is what I said. A group loads and loads of information together. So get a central theme and then put all the things that you know that are linked to each other off that central theme, like a mind map, but mind map like that is quite broad with topics. Also, obviously, mnemonics and acronyms. I'm sure when you get to medicine, you'll realize everything can be separated, summarized as a mnemonic or an acronym, and it's great. Yeah. Oh, Cornell method for taking notes. I don't know if you guys are big fans of using it. I mean, I don't personally use the Cornell method, but I've heard it's quite good. Because my handwriting is quite big, so I don't have enough space ever to use the Cornell method, but apparently it really helps you stay succinct to what your notes should be. Sorry, I'm running over time for you guys. Hopefully that's okay for everyone. Any questions? When would I recommend getting an iPad for med school? I don't have an iPad. I have a Samsung equivalent. When do I recommend starting to prep for the UCAT and the BMAT? UCAT, probably in June. I would start looking at UCAT prep around June time with the aim to take your exam in early August. One of the things I always tell medical applicants, and I know a lot of friends who made this mistake, don't do your UCAT late. A lot of people did it like a lot of my mates did it in September, and they really struggled and ended up not doing as well as they wanted to on that exam because they didn't give themselves focused time for revision. The problem is doing it in September, you're going to have other exams. You're going to have other school things going on. So why are you then, you're going to be busy balancing everything. Don't balance, focus on your specific timings. You're probably going to end up having to balance for the BMAT. And I would say starting sort of in September after your September and coming back to school exams. Starting then, that would be really useful. Any tips for an exam tomorrow? Yeah, good luck, first of all. But tips tonight, just go over, is it what subject and what type of exam? Is it like a summative or a kind of, is it everything pulled together, or is it specific topic test? Because it affects how you would revise for it. High stakes exam, biology key assessment. Sorry. Okay, so for that, then I'm assuming it's going to be from a variety of topics. The last thing, oh, it's pretty much only biological molecules. Okay. Then I would focus specifically on, so tonight I would go back through the book with post-it notes going, okay, do I know this? Do I not know this? And then every post-it note, what I want you to do, I want you to summarize what that entire page is saying on one post-it note. I know that's quite tough to do, but basically break a huge topic down into something really, really tiny, like a summary. And then from there, take that and take those with you to tomorrow in the morning, review them in the car on the way to school, and then you should at least have a summary of what you need to know. How would I revise for quite a big bio exam next week on many topics? So if it's a big exam, I'm assuming you've probably already begun your revision process and started how you're approaching it. I would say now it might be a bit late to do like flashcards, and if you're going to make them. So the best focus is to focus on specific topics that you are already struggling with, going through videos, creating sort of those sheets that I talked about earlier, which is where you summarize a huge topic into one piece of paper, and literally explaining key topics to other people would be very useful as well, which is one of the reasons I do tutoring, is because it's very good revision for doing medicine, because I have to learn everything before I teach it to you. Otherwise, there'd be no point, and I still get assessed on this stuff. So teaching other people is an amazing way to revise. And though that would be my 5-step approach. So watch a video on a topic you're struggling with, create a topic sheet, a summary sheet, explain that topic to someone else, create a second topic summary sheet, and then read through the book just on the night before, just to get it fresh in your memory again. How many hours should you be revising a night? It's not about hours. Time doesn't matter. There have been days where I've spent an entire day revising and I've learned nothing. But there are days where I've revised 2 hours and I felt like, whoa, okay, I've gained quite a lot from that. It's about how you revise, what you're doing. Remember, revision isn't about time. It's not about time spent. Time spent reading a textbook is not as good as 30 minutes of doing active recall flashcards a day. Are you allowed to ask non-science related questions? As long as they're appropriate, yeah. Yeah, it's quality over quantity. It's not about how much you revise, it's about how well you revise. No, I did not. I don't watch boxing, unfortunately. Tutoring a student tomorrow, any tips? Yeah, so the best way to kind of tutor is to put yourself in that person's shoes. So think about when you were first learning a topic and the kind of things that helped you remember that topic. So when I tutor, I use a lot of like acronyms and kind of easy to remember phrases and things like that that are quite things that I would have wished that I was memorizing when I was learning it originally, and then basically just explain it in that way, make it very simple, break it down into literally its core essence of the topic, and then build up from there. Once you've established a solid foundation, that's the best way to kind of gain growth. I have a lot of students who, when I teach them, and when I started out tutoring them, it was all about kind of building that foundational knowledge, and then we focused on kind of building to the other stuff. And now they're doing a lot, kind of their grades have massively improved because of that. Is doing an EPQ useful to get into med school? And did I do one? No, I didn't do an EPQ because I took a 4th subject at AS level, and my school was like, why would you do both an EPQ and a 4th subject at AS? An EPQ is useful. It will teach you a lot of core skills that you would want to be aware of. Personally, I'm going to be very, if you had the option, and I would recommend, I did this with my school because I managed to convince them to help let us do it. We did a gold crest instead. That would probably be significantly more useful for a medical application than an EPQ. And I would, I'm hoping if you guys can still see my screen, I'll kind of show you what the gold crest pro system is. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's a really cool award that basically it's based on the kind of things that you would be doing as a scientist. It's amazing. It's like an EPQ, but for people who are doing research. And I managed to convince my school to, they'd never done it before. We were the first group that ever did it. And we got some really, really interesting data. It's a student-led kind of program we did on bacteria and the use of homeopathic remedies. So things like turmeric and honey, on whether it prevents bacterial growth. And it was really interesting. We got some really cool data, and we got to work with some amazing equipment that we wouldn't have worked with in a normal science setting. And it was brilliant. I absolutely loved doing the EPQ and the Gold Crest. And I know a lot of mates in Scotland did it as well. So I think it's quite common up here. Well, more common anyway. yeah, if you can get your school to help you with that and get a group of friends together, it is a right laugh. And yeah, it's a right laugh and it's good fun. Something that will set you apart from other applicants. I'm working to save money for a trip to West Africa to volunteer in a disaster relief. That kind of stuff is very, very useful. And remember, it's not what you do, it's what you learned when you were doing it. So, for example, I might have done I could have done, you can do this volunteering and disaster relief, but if you go there and you don't gain anything or any life experience from there, then it's pointless. But if you go there and you appreciate the value of empathy and meeting people and the importance of getting to know different kind of cultural backgrounds, different environments, different medical settings, that's going to be the kind of thing that you can discuss that will set you apart from other applicants. Not necessarily, oh, I did it, if you know what I mean. Because again, it's not what you do, it's what you learn. Everything, there's one thing you'll learn, everything that you do, it's not what you do, it's what you learn from it. It's pretty cool, yeah. I know a lot of friends who, and I myself want to work for MSF, so it's quite important and really important to get that experience of seeing kind of everything in a different setting. Remember, if you are going out to West Africa, my best piece of advice would be to learn the language, especially if you're volunteering in rural communities. They might not be fluent in English, and that's going to really hurt your teaching prospects if you aren't able to communicate with the local people in a way that they can understand. And it's just a lot more respectful to go to another country and expect people to speak and communicate to people in their own language, and they're going to appreciate it a lot more, and it builds really amazing rapport with people. So if you can get a basic learning of a language, that would be the kind of crucial thing, I would say. Any other questions? More than welcome to ask anything. Can you bookmark on Momentum? Well, generally you bookmark outside of Momentum, but yeah, you can, if you look at this thing called links on Momentum, you can add loads and loads of cool links. So you can name it. So let's say we're just putting in, let me put in something, BBC News, and I can add like a link to that. So I can say, I'd actually have to go to BBC News to find that. But yeah, you can go to BBC News, add the link, and create, and look at that. That's already connected you basically up to BBC News. So when you click it, it goes into BBC News, for example. Do I want to be a GP or specialize? I would like to specialize. Ideally, currently I'm looking at doing oncology, which is the medicine of cancer, which is pretty cool. I don't think I have the skills to be a surgeon, but I love how the actual only question about revision is now called sorry off topic. No. Any advice revising chemistry? Yeah, so chemistry is closer to how I would revise subjects like maths, in the sense that I would focus on exam technique for chemistry. Get your definitions down as well, because that's a lot of students lose marks on not knowing their definitions and being very specific with them, because chemistry gets really pedantic about definitions. If they're talking about electron, what's it called? Electron affinity, you would have to say 1 mole of electron, 1 mole of atoms, or 1 mole of X of positively charged ions. You would have to be very specific. So revise do your definitions, do exam papers, and yeah. What else would I say did I do for chemistry? I didn't tend to do the sheets for chemistry as much as I did for biology. I didn't really tend to do summary notes either. Like I've got a huge bank of summary notes for bio, but I don't have that for chem. Watching videos, again, is a really good way to just get your knowledge refreshed. And also, when you're doing chemistry, break everything down into something that's more understandable to you. Like it's really like whenever I learn about like red blood cells or things, biology is really easy to practically apply. Whereas chemistry, it's a lot more theoretical. It's harder to practically apply. But whenever I think about hydrogen bonds, I immediately thought about water. So that helped me put that into context, which helped me understand it a little bit more. But yeah, I would say those would be the kind of ways to do it. What do I mean that I don't have the ability to be a surgeon? I don't have manual dexterity at all. Like, it's too much. And do I have any medical books that I would recommend for your personal statement? I only read one. It was Admissions: A Life in Brain Surgery by Henry Mush, which was a beautiful book. I know a lot of medical applicants will read Adam Kay's books, and most of my mates did. And that's again a really good series of kind of books that that are quite like that are quite strong. This is gonna hurt, yeah. Those are again really good books, I would say. So again, those could be your options, but I would just remember to kind of again, with your books, use them as a supplementation to something else. So if you're talking about a specific book, use it to supplement your show that you have grown in another way. You've learned something about the NHS. Can I recommend books for dentistry? There's a lot of overlap. I would say read the same books because at the end of the day, it's a clinical environment. You're learning about the challenges of working with people, but let's see if there's good books for dentistry. It's the same for nursing, really. I would say use the same books. I can ask around. I know a couple of dentists, but there's a good link here that says 9 books that every dentist / future dentist should read. So that sounds like the kind of thing that would have some books that you should probably look at. Yeah, Being Mortal, again, another really good book. Any other questions? Again, I'm sorry I'm keeping you here for like too long. What do I do in my spare time? I do loads of stuff. I play football. I play video games. I do Model UN, which is like debating but pretending to be countries. I do cricket. Who do I support? I support Arsenal. Yeah, because I grew up very close to them. Which medical TV shows do I think are the most realistic? I don't watch medical TV shows. I don't particularly kind of. I watched a couple of episodes, couple of seasons of House over the summer. I liked it. It was good fun. But House is very different to kind of the other ones. The most realistic medical TV shows are the actual documentaries, like behind closed doors, inside the GPs, 24 hours in A&E. Those are probably the best medical TV shows, in the sense that they're probably going to be the only ones that you could actually use to discuss in your application. And again, there is nothing wrong with talking directly about TV shows as long as you show, yeah, Surgeons at the Edge of Life, again, another really good one. But yeah, I don't tend to watch like medical dramas because, well, I don't see the point in my entire life as a medical drama, really. So. I'll stay on here if there's anyone who wants to ask any more questions. No worries. Hope that was useful. I know the biology bit of the lesson ended quite quickly because there wasn't that much to talk about. But yeah, hopefully the revision and everything else, and you've gained some stuff that you want to think about. Did I have to sacrifice a lot of time in sixth form? Yes. 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 I put a lot of things that I enjoyed on the back burner for 2 years because I wanted to get into medicine. That's not to say that I didn't have fun. I think I would argue sixth form was one of the most enjoyable aspects of my life, like in terms of as a direct period. And I met incredible people through the medical application process. And that's one of the things that you kind of learn is that you just be grateful for what you're doing at the time you're doing it. Like I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't know if I would ever reapply to medicine, or I never don't know if I'd ever do it again because it's so difficult. And I'm like, you've got the opportunity to meet amazing people who are all learning. Like you guys should learn from each other because you're all doing this, you're all in this together. You guys should like get, do Zoom revision sessions or whatever for your A-level like course and stuff. And that would be, a good way of meeting people who are all in the same boat as you. So even though, yes, I did sacrifice a lot of what I wanted to do for getting into medicine, I think at the end of the day, I also learned a lot and became a very different person to the person I was when I ended my GCSEs. And I became a lot more motivated, direct, open. I became a lot more confident. Yeah. So like, it's never a negative. Yeah, no worries. Hopefully that has been helpful for you guys. I yeah, just kind of Phil, come over to the chemistry session on Wednesday, 6 to 7. This week it's gonna be on alkanes, alkenes, and alcohols. So it'll be on a lot of organic stuff. And I think we'll do some mechanisms stuff. And there'll be stuff on the week after is going to be spectroscopy. And next week is exchange surfaces and animals. So what I'll do is I'll try and link that into transport and animals as well. So transport stuff. And then the week after, the last week of so the 12th of December, which will be the last session that I run, is going to be on practical questions and designing an investigation. So that again, I will probably shove in a bit more revision techniques and stuff there. No worries. No worries. Bye. Right. Thank you.